So our next inspirational story will demonstrate that with strong values and the right tools, that we have the power to rise above any challenges thrown our way. Like the Northstar, Coldwell Banker has been guiding people home for the last 115 years. But we now must be the ultimate guides for our industry as we move into the future. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our next speaker from Coldwell Banker Realty in Honolulu, Hawaii, Kalama Kim.
Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Clap along if you feel like happiness is.
Hello, Coldwell Banker. There was a time when I was absolutely sure that I was going to die. It was January 13th, 2018. I was at home in Hawaii. And the day started with my 16-year-old daughter, Kayla, waking me up. And she said, "Dad, we have to go to the garage." And for me, that was really confusing. I was half awake, and I never go to garage. My car isn't there, and I'm the least handiest person in the world. I don't even use tools. She saw my puzzled look, and she said, "Dad, look at your phone." So I looked at my phone, and this is what I saw. That a ballistic missile was heading our way. The important part is the last line. It said, "This is not a drill." Right? So I'm thinking, is this a drill? I read it again. This is not a drill. So we get up, and the first thing I'm thinking is, where's my family? Well, my wife is taking my 14-year-old daughter to dance. My 12-year-old son is headed on a bus to a robotics competition 10 miles away. So I call my wife, and of course, all the lines are busy. Everyone's trying to get a hold of somebody. So we start heading down the stairs. We're heading to the garage. And then I hear chaos outside. People are talking, screaming, some sobbing. There's emergency warnings on the television. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this could be real. I remember back on the news that they were talking over the last 2 weeks that North Korea had developed a ballistic missile that could carry a nuclear warhead all the way to Hawaii, and it would take less than 30 minutes. I look at my phone. Oh my gosh, it's 8:16. The warning came out at 8:07. It could be at any time. So we get to the garage, and by that time, I'm kind of convinced that this is not a drill. And something strange happened. A calm overcame me. And it made me focused on one thing, and that was what's most important. And so my daughter and I sat down, crisscross applesauce. You parents know what that is. And I look at her and I say, "Kayla, I am so proud of you. I love you so much." And then I texted my wife, "I love you so much." And then I texted my 14-year-old daughter, Marissa, "I love you so much." And I text my son, Cameron, "I love you so much." Emoji, hearts, kissy hearts, emoji. More emojis that I'd ever use again in my lifetime. Now, I have really good news for you. You can still go to Hawaii. The nuclear bomb didn't hit. We're all still there, and we're alive. The guy who hit the wrong button, he's not there. I don't know where he is, Alaska somewhere, but not in Hawaii. It's an interesting thing, though, when such a significant event happens and you're 100% sure that it's happened, it unites people, and you all think about one thing. What's most important? And for us, it's our family, our loved ones. I learned later my wife had already dropped off my daughter at dance, so when she hit the stoplight, she did one of those donut U-turns and headed back to get with my daughter. My son was with his friends on the bus, and I guess they had stopped. Luckily, the warning only lasted 38 minutes, so he wasn't too afraid for too long. So following that, I was committed to make sure on my daily checklist, I would call my wife every day from work. I would tell everyone that I love them, make sure my family knew that. And I'm still committed to do that every day. But then I think, why didn't we do that before? I mean, we all know that we're going to die someday. We know that. But we don't know when it's going to happen. We have threats that happen all the time. We get sick. We get in accidents. People around us, especially right now, are passing away. Yet, it doesn't motivate us enough because it's not one significant event to focus us, to unite us. So we still go on our way. As a business person, I think to myself, I learned from that, how can I apply it to business? I think to myself, are there threats to our business that happen over time? And the answer is yes, there are a lot of threats to our business. Think about the MLS. The MLS used to be a book, and we had the book. If buyers wanted to buy something, they had to come to get the book to figure out what to buy. And then the internet happened, the threat. And when the threat happened, it changed our world in real estate, because fast forward till today, buyers go and find their properties on the internet even without us. Then they come and find us. Or maybe it's the disruptors in our business that have happened over and over again. They're just different types of disruptors, like the ones that they put our listings and our data on websites, they generate leads, and then they sell it back to us. Or some of them have created like this open door where they create a portal and they let buyers and sellers come together and do the deal without the middleman, and we're the middleman. Or maybe we're afraid of large companies like an Amazon or YouTube getting into our business. Can you imagine YouTube and DIY, do-it-yourself videos on real estate? These are the threats that are happening. And the National Association of Realtors, they knew that threats had been happening for a long, long time. So they contracted a consultant, Stefan Swanepoel, to create the danger report. And the danger report, that report, it ranked the threats to our business based on the impact, and then how likely it's going to happen, and then when it's going to happen. This is like 6 years ago. If you read the report now, you go, wow, this guy's like a Nostradamus of real estate, because there are things that are happening over and over again. So these threats, just like the missile attack, were there. And you wonder to yourself, is the missile attack threat going to happen in our business? Well, I'll get to that later. It might happen in our business. In that danger report, I thought on the top of the list, I was going to see that Z word. You all know that word. That was going to be the threat to our business. It wasn't. It was kind of near the bottom. The threat to our business that was at the top is the rise of the marginal agent. The increase in the marginal agent. You know what that means? That means that the threat to our business is ourselves. It means if there are tons of marginal agents that aren't the Coldwell Banker professionals like you are, providing premium level of services, if those marginal agents are out there, then the public starts believing that's who we are. And these are marginal agents, like they don't provide a comparable market analysis. It's in-depth, so their sellers and buyers have to pick prices out of the air, and that could be bad. Or maybe they blow a deadline in a contract timeline, which affects the buyer and the seller because they took a weekend vacation and ghosted their own client. Or maybe they just weren't trained to identify red flags or disclosures that have to be made, and it damages clients after closing. See, that's not who we are. That's who the marginal agent is. And we can't let that rise up. Otherwise, what happens next is there's no value there, and the consumers don't want to pay us. And I don't know about you, I want to get paid. Chris McGatt with Coldwell Banker Realty is one of the executives and leaders at Coldwell Banker Realty, and he goes around the country and implements his programs, great programs. I remember a quote that he put up on the screen, and it said, "In the absence of value, there is only price." That means if there's no value, the client chooses us based on price. That's not a good scenario. Well, I added another line to it that I thought was appropriate. There is always someone that is willing to make less than you. That means if you add that together, we are racing down to a smaller and smaller pile of revenue that we're going to have to share. That could radically change our business. And we don't want to get there. We don't. So what should we do? Well, we could look at other industries to see what other industries did, what other companies did when they had those same type of threats. I could think of three that come to mind. The first is Netflix. I mean, Netflix was this DVD company that rented videos by mail. And now I can go back to my hotel after this and sign into my Netflix account and enjoy movies and TV shows in my hotel room Or when I get home, I can do that too. And they created their own original content. All of this stuff creates value for us. It all creates value for us, and we're willing to pay for it. Or how about Marvel Comics? When I was in 8th grade, I'd read Marvel Comics, the Avengers and all of that. They knew technology was going to come and print was going to go down. So they reinvented themselves, and they created video games and cartoons and, of course, the movies like the Avengers. And anytime we see the preview, we're waiting for that movie to come up to hand over our money because it entertains us. It resonates with us. We see value in that. We're willing to pay for it. And then there's Apple. Wow, what they have done to reinvent themselves. And they've reinvented us. Now we experience music differently. We experience photos and videos. We walk around like into themselves on the streets of New York when you're doing this all the time. But we are. They've reinvented themselves so much that I have to buy a new iPhone for my family every year, and they keep going up in price. But we're willing to pay it because of that experience. So I'll tell you, what do we do in our business? Here's the good news. You keep doing what you are doing already, because you are the leaders in our business with professionalism. What we have to do is tell our story. We have to tell our story to the public before we're even in a transaction. We have to tell that story while we're in a transaction, and we have to tell our story at the end. So we tell them what we did. That's all we have to do, because you're already creating that value, because you're not the marginal agent. So again, we just have to tell them before, during, and after, like a summary statement. This is what I did for you. And then they see the value. I know you folks are doing that out there. I hear the stories all the time, but I thought I'd bring some stories of my own. Let me catch up on the slides here. All right, this is CLPia. She's out in the crowd somewhere. She's an agent from Hawaii. And I want to tell a story that she has as an example. She had a listing coming up. The comps put it around $799. And she knew the market was going up like crazy during the pandemic, but she had no idea how much it would go up, so she did research. When she did her CMA, she saw that there are 3 pending sales. So she called those agents and said, hey, when are you closing, and how much are you going to close for? They all kind of chuckled and said, I'm not telling you that. But she didn't stop there. She was persistent. So she took one of them to lunch. And by the end of the lunch, because she's persuasive, by the end of the lunch, she knew that it was going to close like a month and a half from now at a really high price, a surprisingly high price compared to the comps, and that there are special terms that really locked the buyer in, so we knew it was going to close. So she was able to list, and even though the comps were at $799, she sold it for $860. Here's the significant part. The significant part is that there's a listing identical that came on right before hers, and it closed right after hers. They closed at $805 because they didn't do the same due diligence. She made the client $55,000. That's value. And how did she do that? Well, like you do. Use your knowledge. Use your skill and your guidance. This is Fran. You see Fran up on the screen. Fran was working with a buyer, and you've heard this story all the time. Fran's burned out. The buyer's burned out. You're putting offer after offer after offer. You're competing, and you just don't get the property. So Fran decided, I'm going to go old school, because Fran's old school like that. She says, I'm going to find an off-the-market property. So she texts people, she calls people, she advertises, she sends mailers, and guess what? She finds an off-the-market property for her buyer. They're not competing with other buyers. They get it for $37,000 under the comp in a market that's going crazy right now. That's value. And how did she do it? Again, she did it through her knowledge, skill, and guidance. You see, these are the things that we have to tell the world about. And there's so many of these different stories. Like Chanel and Jesse, they had a client, they had a listing opportunity. It's an average condition. The last comp put it around $795,000. So they put it into our Real Vitalize program where we fronted the seller $35,000 to make improvements. Well, guess what? We put it back on the market, and it sold for $879,000. Major value to the seller. Or maybe it's not always money, but it's money and lifestyle. Another agent that's out there right now, Ruth Manzano, she has a lot of clients that are in healthcare. So you know what she did is she helped her clients redefine and redesign their life. Instead of having to go and work in nursing at the hospital anymore, they can have a home and turn it into a home care. So now they have a place to live, and they're building $1 million business. That redefines someone's life. That's value. These are the stories that we need to tell over and over and over again, using our knowledge and our skill and our guidance, not only just tools, not only just technology. It's these things that make a difference. And we got to tell these stories before, during, and after. This is not one of our sales associates right now, although she would be a great one. This is Harriet Tubman. You know her from the Underground Railroad. And she helped free people from slavery by having them go through the Underground Railroad. And here's what she would tell them. She would tell them, when you come up, you still have to go north to be free. So follow the North Star, because you don't have a compass, you don't have a map. And that's what they did. They followed the North Star to get to freedom. We may have the proverbial missile coming our way for our industry. You see, because the Department of Justice just pulled back that settlement that we thought we had, and we're going to move forward. The settlement that was supposed to solve the antitrust lawsuits. Not only them against us, but all the other antitrust lawsuits. Well, now that they pulled it back, we don't know what they're going to come back with. That could be the nuclear missile that changes everything. So we need to start now. And you're the ones that start, because you lead our industry, because you are the professionals, Coldwell Banker, within our industry. All we have to do is tell our stories to everyone, before, during, and after. And like the North Star in our logo, which we rolled out a few years ago to guide people to homes, now we're going to use the North Star to guide our entire industry into the future. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get it started now. Thank you very much.
Kalama, thank you so much. That was wonderful. And we totally agree with you that we need to be the leaders of our industry in the future. So ladies and gentlemen, Kalama Kim. So